Greetings, traveler. I know it may be tempting not to heed warnings telling you to turn back now, but this one you might want to pay attention to if you're sensitive towards sexual content or foul language in a podcast. We will be swearing during this episode, and we will be talking about some not so PG 13 things. So, this is your one and only chance to turn back now. Please enjoy the show.
Ooh, recording, lady.
I gotta grab my headphones. Hold on. Give me a second.
Okay.
I forgot about them.
Oh, there
Leave
goes
it to Taryn to be unprepared.
Yep. Taryn wanting his headphones.
Wanting his headphones. Why didn't he have them?
Have him. It's the Taryn noise, the marquee Taryn noise that Taryn makes.
So, are we gonna do the Flat Stanley episode?
Look, it's just like him.
It's just like Taryn. It's just Taryn.
Thanks for filling in for Jordan today, Taryn.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
now
allowed to talk about Flat Stanley, right? That's the plan.
This week we got editing Taryn instead of editing Jordan. We've got Taryn watchers instead of visual watchers.
I was gonna make fun of his stutter, but I can't do that.
And we've got Taryn listeners instead of audio listeners this week. All of you are the Taryn listeners this week.
Everybody's Taryn.
Oh, looks like we also have a guest.
Indeed.
Impossible.
Aaron, go take the garbage out.
Cold open. Hey everybody, welcome to the Nat 1 podcast, aka Nope, because nope, you're not gonna want to hear what we're about to have to say. I'm Pertusic.
I'm Levi.
And I'm Jordan.
Hold on.
New Taryn music?
The Taryn music.
Editing Jordan cut here.
Editing Taryn.
No.
Editing Taryn activate.
Well, no, he can take on the editing after he graduates college.
Yes.
Because then he'll have a degree in it and we can make him do it for free.
Yeah. Child labor. Wait.
No, he's an adult.
Dang, you're right. I'm still gonna refer to it as child labor. But
As long as he's the youngest, he gets that mark put on him.
anyway, welcome, Jay.
Yay!
We don't clap. They clap.
I made sure not to this time. I didn't want to get yelled at again after the TJ episode.
Well, hi, Jay.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing all right. Welcome to the Nat 1
sick.
podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We thought we'd have you on, ask you some questions. But
Terrified.
yeah, you're on the stand. I'm cross-examining you.
Should we introduce Jay and who he is to the lovely people of the Nat 1 audience?
Absolutely, Jay. Please introduce yourself to the wide winternet.
Wide winternet.
Something
Okay.
like that.
Well, I am J.S. Willis. I am the father of one Jordan Willis and one Taryn Willis that sometimes get confused, especially when one of them is. I'm a D&D player. I'm a gamer. I'm a fantasy author. I'm all of the above.
Yeah. We're very excited to have you on for that exact express reason. We could have my dad on and he would talk about trucks, which is also cool, but not quite as cool, I don't think. That's what
Bill
you
episode? Next episode, Bill episode?
I think my dad has to come on next year's Valentine's Day episode to tell everyone about how to pick up women.
Agreed.
do. He has great advice. I should know. He told me.
He has abysmal advice.
But anyway, Jay, so obviously you said you were a D&D player. You know, all three of us here started on 5th edition, like really started. But pray tell, if you want to tell the audience, what edition did you begin playing Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh, you're going to show my age by asking.
Yep.
That's okay, because I don't mind. The first D&D game I played was the old original red box version of basic D&D.
Whew.
Wow.
Back in 1985-ish.
Goodness. Man, we're going to have to get you and Dylan in a room one day.
Oh yeah, Dylan's our older editions expert. He's the only one that knows anything about all of the old rules.
Yeah. So we'll just jump right into it. Why don't you tell us some of the highlights of like how did you learn about D&D And what was like your first experience with it like? Did you like it straight away? Did you know you were gonna love it, or did you like hate it and come back to it later?
Well, back in the 80s, when I first started playing, of course, Dungeons and Dragons wasn't the cool thing that it is today. It wasn't widely accepted. There was the big and satanic panic where people thought, oh, you're going to go to hell. These people are going to raise demons and devils and they're going to kill each other and kill other people because they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Well, I'm here many, many years later to tell you that that never happened.
Although we have killed Terran many times.
There were no witnesses at the end of it. No.
So yeah, I started playing in high school, probably my sophomore year of high school. Spent many nights in the basement of a friend of mine's house, eating Monster Giovanni's pizza, staying up all night, and killing orcs, dragons, all kinds of bad guys. We started with Keep on the Borderlands way back then.
Man, that's kind of amazing though that he had like the same kind of stuff that we did, like
Yep,
getting in a friend's
That's
basement.
exactly what we
we
did.
know exactly how that is. Yep.
Oh, the Great
I bought my
United.
original dice. When I bought my original dice, I bought them at a bookstore in a mall in West Virginia, and it came with a crayon because they were white dice, and you had to actually color the numbers in,
Really?
scratching the wax into the numbers.
I have
Oh
his
my
original dice.
gosh. That's amazing.
I'll show them to you later. They're really cool.
Okay, all right.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Also,
Make your own dice.
if I'm not mistaken, the D20, it does not look like the D20 we play with now, correct? I've looked at it, so I know, but like the numbers on it is different.
I still have the D20. I think I gave you some of the original set, but I think I still have the D20. No, it looks like a regular D20.
Well, but I'm thinking of like they didn't go into the teens. It was like 1 plus something.
Make you do extra math.
I remember.
I heard you like math rocks. Well, what if
I am the shiny math rock
a
goblin.
math rock that has math on the rock?
No, I started with the red box, and then that was the basic set, and then there was the blue box, which was the expert rules that came after that.
Oh.
There was another lighter blue box that was like the I can't remember what they called it. It wasn't advanced. It was something else. I never got that one. Never played with that one. But then shortly after started playing, my friends and I started playing second edition advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Mhm.
So it was very different and very modern for the time. Because we actually had books instead of the red box that had like almost loose leaf paper books that were stapled. They weren't stapled together. They had a binding on them. They weren't that big, but
Oh, so it's like the Call of Cthulhu set, where it's like the
Yeah.
pamphlets instead of the
Like a book.
yeah,
Okay.
similar to that.
Okay. Maybe we take our books for granted, having like what 20, 30 books of 5e.
I can go count while we're
Yeah.
discussing. Let me go look.
So I have another question for you, and then
Yeah,
like
go
a
ahead.
follow-up. First off, do you remember your very first D&D character?
Yes, I came across a copy of that character sheet in an old notebook a few weeks ago when I was cleaning stuff out in the basement.
Would you like to share any details about this character?
My first character was a magic user. We didn't have wizards. We didn't have sorcerers. We had magic users. We called them MUs. So
You
an MU. I was a magic user.
emus.
emus. That's why the Australians lost.
His name was Triad.
Try it. That's a cool name.
I like it.
My follow-up question was going to be, so in the discussions that we've had with Dylan, who's pretty well versed in the old stuff, he says that in the older editions, characters came and went like a revolving door because they just died so much.
Meat grinder.
When the newer editions, that happens a lot less in 5th edition. Like you get a character, you might have one character death over the course of the campaign or two.
Wow. Aaron is an outlier and should not be counted in the statistic.
True. I was gonna ask if you even remembered or if they just like died very soon after.
Oh, we did the way that you played. We didn't have a lot of character deaths.
Okay.
back then it was the way it was set up though, it took forever to gain levels. And the experience points were like astronomical to advance a level. If I remember right, you had to even gold counted toward experience.
Man.
Bizarre. So you had you had to kill things and loot things, and you were always looking for gold because every gold piece you got counted as an experience point.
Oh man. So it's like, here, I have 5,000 gold. Can I learn to hit something a third time now? Can I learn new spells?
So if we're going by the old rules, TJ won D&D.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Don't tell him that, because he already thinks he's won 5th edition.
He's just waiting for the next one.
You're
I
just
had a
gonna
friend in
make
college that won D&D one time. It was kind of weird.
What?
Wait, what?
I had a friend in college that won a D&D game that I was running for a bunch of friends that we had in college. I don't even remember the plot at this point. I was running the game. I was the dungeon master, and there were probably 4 or 5 players.
Mhm.
And my friend Steve, somehow he played a thief. We didn't have rogues back then. We had thieves. He played a thief, but his thief somehow managed to figure out the plot and managed to outsmart everybody and ended up killing everybody and got the treasure. he won dungeons.
I love
That's
that.
hilarious. I don't know if you know, Jay, but even in 5th edition, there's a common trope that all DMs kind of say that rogues destroy campaigns. Your friend might have been the first. One of the first.
In 5th edition, I did take a brief glance. Give or take a few that might be ones that are like actually embedded in other books, and D&D Beyond just has them up front as like a separate thing. I might be off by 1 or 2. There are 50 books,
Oh,
including the 2 that are not out yet. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes and the one they announced really recently, the weird
I know what you're
ethereal
talking about.
ethereal plane one
Yeah.
that's been announced.
That new plane one.
Journey through the Radiant Citadel.
Yeah.
All about making money.
Yep.
Wizards of the Coast, please give us money.
We'll make you earn it back. We promise.
Don't say please. They stole. They're the thieves. They ruined our campaign.
They started out producing Magic the Gathering. I mean, that's how Wizards of the Coast got their start. And
Yes.
they bought up D&D and a bunch of other properties. So, but they know how to monetize stuff. That's for sure.
That's for sure. I was talking to a friend today that was talking about how he got into Magic the Gathering and how it was costing him and his friends a lot of money because they were buying expensive stuff.
Is Jay aware of the joke that we have of Wizards of the Coast stealing all of our intellectual property?
I don't know if he is. He's heard me complain about it before, but I don't know if he knows it's a joke on the podcast.
Have you heard that, Jay?
No.
Okay.
So pretty much every time we do something that's like a novel idea, Wizards of the Coast releases some kind of book or content like months later that's exactly what we came up with.
It's just the worst coincidence in the entire world, and it's happened like 4 times.
Yeah.
No, they have a pact with the same devil that Amazon has in their apps and the Kindles, and AT&T and Apple have in their phones. They all transmit that information when they hear it from all the various social media and things.
There you go. Now we figured it out.
Let's see. What was was mine the very first one? The first coincidence?
I think that might have been the first one to be published, because Atlas was made. Well, no, because you started Greek like way before we started Vivia too. Yeah.
So yours would have been, and then there was the thing that happened with Atlas and the subclass.
Yeah.
And then there was another one recently, but I don't remember what it was.
I don't remember. It was something real goofy.
There's been 3. But yeah, the first one was Pertusit is DMing a campaign that we're all playing now, which is themed. It's Greek mythology themed.
Not
and
Theros.
A month after after we started this, they released an entire book, which was D&D but Greek mythology based, called Mythic Odyssey of Theros,
including some of the races that you had homebrewed for this Greek setting.
Centaurs and minotaurs and satyrs, which I had just homebrewed.
Well, none of that stuff's original. So
True.
You can't lay claim to it.
What? You're telling me that Hesiod beat me? That old geezer from the BC era?
Yeah.
You guys familiar with Eberron?
We have not like played in the
We haven't
setting, but
played
we
Eberron.
know kind
We
of
know
about
about
it.
it.
You know how Eberron came into being?
Mm-mm.
I don't think I'm aware how it came into being. I
They
think out of
actually-
all of us, except for maybe Dylan, I'm probably the one who knows the most about it because I've read the book.
Yeah.
Back in the infancy of third edition, well, it had probably been around for a couple of years by then, but they actually had a competition. They had a contest, and people submitted settings, and they were going to pick their next setting. And I actually wrote a book and submitted it. Of course, I didn't win. Eberron did. That's how Eberron came to be. Eberron was chosen as the winner of that competition. And
That's really cool, actually.
got the rights of publishing.
Wow, I never knew that. That's
That is really
crazy.
cool.
I feel
Well,
like
they
they
do it
should.
again.
Yeah, I feel like they should do stuff like that more often. That would that would make the community involvement like so much bigger.
hmm Nowadays, all you got is like a DM's guild,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is fine, but you know, it's harder to get like integration and stuff.
But yeah, Eberron is pretty wild when you read it. It's probably one of the that's the thing is I feel like it gets a lot of bad rap for being like, oh, it's got technology in it and we don't like
Mhm.
technology because
Oh,
it's
that's where
supposed
the-
to be fantasy.
That's where the Artificer came from. That's where the
Yeah.
Wolf came from. It have some cool ideas.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
only thing I know about Eberron is Artificer, Warforged,
but-
and Changeling is in that book on
There's a,
5e.
there's a lot of detail in Eberron because like there's like at least I think a dozen countries in this world that are all detailed and all of their like big capital cities have all this detail in them. And there's multiple continents that are all like it's a full blown, it's not like one continent, it's like 3 continents, countries on every continent, everywhere has some kind of piece of lore for it. And the entire Eberron was also interesting because I think it was the first setting that the first official setting that was like alignment doesn't matter because it in Eberron it's canon that like nothing has based on race in alignment. So like beholders don't have to be evil, dragons don't have to be evil or good.
That I don't have a problem with. I don't like the whole alignment doesn't matter thing, but that I don't have a problem with.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. It's not necessarily alignment doesn't matter. It's that things aren't restricted by an alignment at birth, like D&D says certain things are.
Races aren't alignment's not tied to race.
Yeah, which we've also, I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, but all of us have also speculated that we think that Wizards is moving away from that with a lot of their recent source books. It seems like they're actually going towards the Eberron style of
Mhm.
race doesn't define alignment anymore for certain things.
They have
Yes.
at least for like player races, especially.
And Fizzban's Treasury of Dragons, which just came out, has made it canon that dragons no longer are bound to alignment.
mhm.
Yeah.
We talked about this back on our first episode. Go back and watch if you want to hear our initial impressions.
Jordan will put it in the cards up at the top.
Whoa, Jordan will do that.
Editing Jordan.
Editing
Um,
Terran?
But let's
No.
get Jay's opinions on this because I know from the old guard, a lot of people that do complain online about these changes tend to be from the older edition. So I would like to get your thoughts on it, Jay. What has happened as of late was there was a book that came out, I believe it was Volo's Guide to Monsters in 5th edition, had a bunch of new monsters that came out in it, and a lot of them had suggested alignments, but they weren't called like suggested alignment, it was just alignment. And a lot of people didn't like that because they were like, oh, but what if I want my hag to be neutral good? So a lot of people complained, and as such, there was an errata that was released a couple months back where in all of Volo's, on digital copies of Volo's Guide to Monsters, they erased the alignments for the monsters, many of the monsters. I can't remember if it actually ended up going through or not, but they posted on their website that was all like, they were like, changes coming to Volo's, changes coming, and it was like just alignment gone. So how do you
I'm
feel
looking
about
right now, and the Anus Hag still has chaotic evil.
that? Okay, that's good.
Although that's that's the one exception that has to be chaotic evil.
They're like, we can't get rid of this one. But if they were to actually continue this path of erasing suggested alignment, how do you feel about that, Jay?
Ultimately, I don't think I like it,
Mhm.
but it's a complicated issue for me because I like alignment.
Mhm.
I think alignment is a very important system in the Dungeons and Dragons game structure. a lot of people just ignore it and don't even worry about it. But my issue is when in your home game, you can do whatever you want to do. Wizards of the Coast
Yes.
matter. But I like my dragons having alignments. Sorry guys, but dragons are evil. I mean, it just is. Black dragons are cool, but black dragons are supposed to be evil. Gold is good. I mean, you got all that. But the flip side of that is I've always maintained necromancy does not have to be evil, and necromancy should not be considered evil. Magic is not good or evil. It's in the application and what you do with it. And magic itself is not evil. So I see both sides of the spectrum. But then again, some of the race things, I mean, it's kind of a cool idea to say the Drow aren't evil. Everybody's a hero in their own story, even if they're the worst villain that there is.
Yeah.
So I can see Drow saying, well, we're not evil. We're just trying to live our lives the way we live our lives and according to our culture. So their definitions of things are flipped on their head from what other races might see. So it's an interesting idea. Some of the things they're doing with 5th edition that I've seen so far are interesting. Other stuff, not so much.
Yeah, for sure. A couple episodes back, we talked about weapons, but that's a whole can of worms.
Yeah.
Can of worms.
Actually, from that, I know that necromancy is something that you have a lot of thoughts about in D&D. So if you want to talk a little bit more about that, because I know that you have a lot of thoughts about necromantic magic and things like that in fantasy. Yeah. Please expand.
Well, how much time we got?
You got like 40 minutes. Go for it.
Yeah, we've been going for like 20 minutes. We got time.
Well, I mean, it just, again, it depends on whoever's running the game. It depends on what their philosophy is and what they're going to allow. But I have always taken the position that necromancy spells do not need to be evil. I mean, just, of course, I don't think necromancy is necessarily tied into you just got a bunch of gravediggers who go out and raise zombies and skeletons either. One of my favorite jokes D&D wise is, necromancer is just a healer that's a little bit late to the party. That kind of thing. So there's a lot you can do with necromancy, and that's my favorite school of magic. So I write a lot about necromancy. I love necromancers. My favorite character I've played in D&D is a necromancer. So
I think you would be sad to know, Jay, that in 5th edition, necromancy has been not gutted, but definitely was one of the fields that got a big hit in the simplification field.
That is true.
Yeah.
Although Dylan tried his damnedest to be a true necromancer during Vivian too.
I don't know how big of a rap Conjuration has in previous editions either, but if it was considered good in previous editions, Conjuration was also one of the ones that got hit really hard in 5th edition and got really simplified and is not very good anymore.
Well, that's one of my problems with 5th is they nerfed a lot of stuff. I mean, it's all oversimplified. That's my biggest gripe with it from what I've seen. Now, my playing of 5th has been limited, but we play, the group I play with, we started out with 3rd. We kind of morphed into a 3rd 3.5 Pathfinder amalgamation. And that's kind of where we stick. And the rule is if it's cool and it works in the story, then go for it.
Rule of cool.
Now you don't want to totally, but if you're running the game, you don't want to ruin the game by letting your players break everything. But yeah, I mean, the great thing about 3rd, especially from my perspective, coming from basic and AD&D and then the horror that was 2nd, I guess I said 2nd edition earlier and I was wrong, and I should be vilified for that. AD&D was not 2nd edition. 2nd edition sucked. The only thing worse than 2nd edition is 4th. Fourth was a nightmare. 4th, they tried to make Dungeons and Dragons into World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is great. I'm in recovery from World of Warcraft. 4th edition was horrible. I mean, it was awful.
Sorry, 4th edition stands.
2nd edition to hit armor class 0, they just kind of flipped all the combat charts on their head, and I was like, what the hell are you doing here? Why are you trying to make this more complicated than it needs to be? but third, the beauty with 3rd is 3rd was adaptable. I know you guys who are playing with fifth, you probably think, oh, that's just too complicated. It's too much math. It's too much this, too many tables, too much this. But the great thing about third was prestige classes. Now I know there's like specializations and stuff like that in fifth, but for me, third was more adaptable. You could do more with it because with feats and prestige classes, I mean, and that's where necromancy was able to shine in third. I mean, there were several necromancy prestige classes that came out, and if you took bits and pieces of all those and combined them together, I mean, you could come up with a really kick-ass necromancer.
That is something we've all we I think this might have also been in our first episode. We've talked about that a little bit, where 5th edition was really oversimplified so that people who wanted to get into D&D could get into D&D, and now that all of us know how it works and we've played a sufficient amount of 5th edition, all of us crave that a little bit more specification and a little bit more us do more creative things with the game.
We're working backwards a little bit.
We have dabbled with the idea of trying third and Pathfinder. Our main roadblock is that we use D&D Beyond, which is only in 5th edition. So all of our character sheets are in 5th edition. But if we had a digital like 3.5 or Pathfinder that we could use, I'm sure we would have been playing in 3.5 or Pathfinder by now.
Oh yeah, I'm still surprised that D&D Beyond has not cashed in on that.
I know, right?
That boggles my mind.
Well, see, the thing is, my children have no excuse because they've had access to third, 3.5, and Pathfinder their entire life.
That's true. Well, no, and that's part of that's part of the reason that the beginning of Vivia 1 was such a like train wreck in terms of character creation.
Oh my gosh.
Because Taryn and I made characters in Pathfinder and everybody else made characters in 5e.
You should have seen it. Have you ever seen two different characters in the same party from two different editions?
Yeah, I get it.
It was really funny.
You have a how much plus to your skills? I only have a +2.
That's exactly what happened. Is like Taryn and I rolled up with the like it was I think we used the Pathfinder sheets, but we used the 3.5 rule book and put together character sheets. And then I think our two mutual friends came with like a weird combination of 5 and 3.5, and then everybody else had 5e.
I was by myself. You know, my parents aren't into this kind of stuff. I had to go online and look up how to make character sheets. I was at the whims of the internet.
Pertusa probably did it the most correct out of any of us.
The cool thing is the player's handbook from third edition actually came with a CD in the back that had the character generator in it.
What? Really?
Yeah, it had a program in it. Now, it didn't work very well, but it did. You could plug stuff in and it would generate a character sheet for you. Back in my day, back when we started this stuff, we would draw. We would create our own character sheets. I mean, it was a mark of prestige that now I'm not using this pre-printed crap. I'm going to take notebook paper or typing paper, and I'm going to create my own character sheet. I'm going to draw my own graphs on it. Graph paper was a big thing. We lived and died with graph paper, and we actually mapped things. Back then, we didn't have the fancy maps that we use dry erase markers on. I mean, or computers. We used graph paper, and we actually graphed out dungeons.
You hear that, Levi? Better get on it. Review 3.
Although I will say, to our credit, didn't our dear friend Mr. NL make an Excel sheet to run his character sheet?
He did.
For Simonius.
He used. I still have
an Excel sheet. I have an Excel character sheet that my friend Dave made, and we've been using it for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I made a pen and paper Pathfinder character. It's sitting on my chest out of view over there. Do I get the prestige mark? Did I do it, Jay?
Sure.
Level 1. Yeah! I'm old. Let's go.
You're the oldest person in our group.
Oh, that's right. I forget.
No, TJ's
TJ's the oldest.
Yeah, but he's not here.
Yeah, true.
One of my characters is what's called a blade dancer from third edition Oriental Adventures, and the jump table. Okay, third edition, the jump tables and the jump calculations you have to do to roll a jump skill
Mhm.
is like the extreme of why third is bad. Because I can't do those calculations without using the Excel sheet.
Really?
And the formula that my friend Dave came up with. He put this stuff in this Excel sheet. So I know what if I roll this, I plug it in and it tells me, okay, here's how far I jumped.
All right, so you're not allowed to yell to make fun of us for using D&D Beyond anymore.
Yeah.
It has its place. It's cool. I appreciate D&D Beyond. It's cool. It's got its merit.
I'm trying to think. There are very few formulas in 5th edition, so much so that I have most of them committed to memory because they're pretty easy. The ones I don't know when your proficiency goes up off the top of my head. It goes from +2 to +6.
I never remember that chart.
Every 4 levels?
I want to say it's every
Something
4
like that.
starting at 1, so it goes 1, 5, 9. I think that's how it goes.
If it's every 4 levels and you have 20 levels and it goes from 2 to 6, that would be enough that it would go up to 6. Maybe it's every 5 levels because that would
It
be
might be.
that would be divisible by 4, and it
I
goes
can't
from 2
remember.
to 6, so it goes up by 1 4 times. I don't know.
Maybe.
I look.
I don't remember carrying rule. I don't think there's anything especially intense about carrying other than just weight versus how much weight you can hold. But
Yeah, we also
Yeah.
just don't use carrying rules occasionally.
I don't know anybody that has ever used the encumbrance rules.
okay, good.
There are some people who are really serious about it on the internet.
Some people like doing like these what do they call it? Like gritty realism games.
Like the
so they do
survivalist
encumbrance,
games.
like survival.
Yeah.
They make you track food and supplies and all
That's
that.
what
Woodbury is banned in
That's
those.
what bags of holding are for.
Yeah. I know the jump rule. In 5e, there's 2 types of jumps you can perform. There's a long jump and then a what's it called? Like standing jump. I remember
Hard, there were more than that, and it was just insane to figure it. But it was cool once you could figure it out. It was cool,
Mhm.
but and it worked really well. But it was just figuring it out's a nightmare. But once you get this formulas down in an Excel spreadsheet, it's like, yeah, I'll just roll and plug it in. Okay.
we do get ruined by that of just like if I asked you, Jordan, could you calculate what your spellcasting modifier is on Arlo right now without looking at it?
I don't remember what her bonus is, but yes. The thing is, I know the formulas. I'm just really bad at math.
It is, in fact, every 4 levels starting at 1. You were correct, Pertusit.
Oh, sweet.
So it goes up at 5 and then 9 and then
13
and
That's kind of
17.
gross, but it's fine.
Okay, now I have to go look at her modifier to see if I can actually figure this out.
Okay.
Because I know how to do it. I can't remember the numbers, and you guys know when I start to do math, I start smoking at the ears. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
True, it's a terrifying sight. No.
They've seen it.
But that's really the most math intense thing we really come across in D&D 5th edition anyway, I think, other than just like, how many dice do I roll and then adding up the dice.
Yeah. Sometimes we have a homebrew rule or two that has to make us do a little loop for something, but
True.
I haven't encountered any yet. Mainly, I mean that for like maybe TJ or Dylan, because they're the ones that experiment with stuff when it comes to doing things like that.
Get this, Jay, you might think this is funny. For Olympus, I homebrew like actually everything, the monsters, the items, everything. And I specifically have made more mathematically intensive items for Dylan, TJ, and Taryn, and not Jordan.
Mine is really simple, and I still forget it every time.
I think Taryn's got the item where he can subtract a d6 of a stat from one foe and then add it to himself. And I was like, I could give that to Jordan because it's cool, but I think it might cause her head to explode.
Yeah.
That is the mark of a good game master. You have to be adaptive. You have to adapt to your players and what their skills are and what their wants and needs are.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I do know the formula for the shepherd's crook. It is the number of dice plus the number of the dice times 2. It's the rolled number plus the number of dice times 2.
Yeah.
I will not remember that by next session, but I know it now.
Okay. So let's get back to your experience with D&D a bit, Jay. We've mostly at this point talked about how you've journeyed with D&D just by happenstance. But I do want to ask you specifically, in your household, how has D&D had an effect from your perspective?
How has it affected my household?
Yeah, you and your family, your kin.
Well, I tried to get my kids to play D&D a long time ago, and they were probably too young, and the math challenge probably didn't latch onto it as well. So my first attempts kind of failed, and then they came to it on their own. Is pretty much how it happened. But it's because we have a lot in common now, because we all have that shared experience of playing Dungeons and Dragons and telling our D&D war stories and stories and stupidity stories and all. So, you know, it's a bonding thing.
Oh yeah.
So it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it, going over to your house and being able to talk to you about this kind of stuff, because I can tell my parents about that stuff and they'll be like, "Well, that's nice, sweetie," but they don't know.
Over their heads.
Yeah.
See, whenever Taryn and I tell our stories, he'll still go, "Oh, that's nice, sweetie," because we've done something monumentally stupid.
Yeah.
Well, there is that.
Different reasons, same result.
But a lot of people that don't play and have never played don't understand what it is. They don't understand that it's basically community storytelling.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's about community. I mean, it's no different than people who sit around on Friday and Saturday nights playing poker or Uno with their family, or
exactly. Yeah.
and telling stories and you know, teasing each other because they lost the last hand and all. It's just, our community storytelling is a little bit more complicated and has a lot more imagination in it.
Yes, I'm glad you see that similarly. I think our hobby is just a different what is that? Monday Night Football? I don't know when football airs.
Sports time. Sports night. Well, that's a television show, but sports night.
Saturday Night Football, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know. I really don't. This isn't a bit. I don't know.
Because high school is Friday night, and then like big boy football is Saturday night.
I'll take your word for it.
I might get completely bashed on the internet for saying this. No,
I might.
How many nerds does it take to figure out what time football is?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to get a couple of highlights from you, Jay, if you can remember some. Can you tell us one of your favorite stories as a player, like funniest or most awesome moment that you remember, and then also one from you when you were DMing, if you would be so kind?
As a DM, I know my favorite story is my friend. I was running the game. The party got separated, which is never a good idea, and I do that to them a lot. So at the time, his character was I think he was still only a wizard. He may not have multi-classed yet, but he ended up going up against a stone golem. So imagine this wizard facing off against a stone golem, and he figured out a way to beat the damn thing, and he beat it with a grease spell.
Really?
That's the most Terran thing I've ever heard.
It was a thing of beauty. He repeatedly used a grease spell and magic missile and was able to take down a stone golem by himself. And it was a thing of, I didn't fudge any of the rolls. I mean, it was just, the golem kept missing its save and kept falling prone, and he was able to ping it with his magic missile, and he just kept doing it.
I love that.
Yeah, and when he did get hit, he'd pop a healing potion and run away from it, and then pop another grease spell and fall. It was great. Great moment.
My respect for the grease spell has just jumped.
Yeah, it just redeemed itself from the last use we've seen of it.
Our only other experience with grease.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
He also managed to use Sleet Storm to great effect one time too. I don't remember all the details, but that was classic. Now as a player, oh God, I don't know. As a player, I mean, there are all kinds of different things. One of the first great experiences was playing through Dragonlance with some friends. This was before I'd actually read the books, because Dragonlance actually started out in D&D module form, and one night we were playing that, and I was playing the wizard. Yeah, you guys have probably never read Dragonlance, have you?
Mm-mm.
I have
Don't
not.
read. Well, I was playing as usual. I was playing the wizard, so I was playing Raistlin Najir, one of the best wizards, mages in fantasy fiction, and didn't know what the hell I was doing with him. I don't even. The stupid thing that happened was, I we jumped off of a cliff or fell off of a cliff, and to try to save my guy, to try to save Raistlin, I ended up casting a web spell to try to catch him, and that broke. So then I cast like Featherfall, and but I cast it too late. So then I landed on one of the other party members and did enough damage to kill the other party member.
But you lived.
But I lived.
There you go.
That is just, what? How's the meme go? As a sacrifice, your sacrifice is one that I'm willing to make, or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that is very funny. All right. So for this next step, I want each of us to offer up a story from our campaigns for Jay to judge and tell us
God.
if we're cool or if we are lame kids.
Are we supposed to make the stories try to be cool, or can we intentionally give one that we think is lame?
You can do whatever. It just has to be one that has actually happened in one of our games.
Oh God. I'm
Levi,
trying to
you go
think.
first, and then we'll go Levi, Jordan, me.
Oh, I've got to
Oh,
think of one.
gosh.
I've got to think of one that he hasn't
Um,
heard, which I probably won't be able to do.
Get ready, Jay. Be ruthless in your judging.
I gotta go first. Oh,
You have to
geez,
go
there's-
first.
There's so many things to pick from. I can't. There's gonna be some dead air that Jordan's gonna have to edit out here because
Yep. Already
Okay.
marking it.
Okay, let's see. Where do I want to go from? Probably something from Vivia 2. I was thinking of the Terran and you making that character that is not real.
I
that
know the
you-
one you're talking about.
Was it Moni?
Moni?
That's what you named them?
Yes.
That one doesn't count though because it's not a real thing.
He was,
That made me think
he was feathered and tarred.
he's not real. That made me think of another story that my players did make that I did make real and enjoyed very
Okay.
much.
Okay.
So, TJ, who has been on here, and Mr. NL and their party, their compatriots, one day were walking along a road in a region that I named Rakatan. I don't remember exactly what their goal was at the time, but I do know that it was like downtime. They were traveling somewhere, and so they were having conversation while they were traveling. And they were getting ready to bed down and like camp on the side of the road for the day. And the rest of the party is doing something, debating something. I think they had a magical bag that spewed out random items, and they were trying to figure out something to do with it. And while this was going on, and like in real life, these players were trying to figure out what they wanted to do with it. TJ and Mr. NL, as their characters, were having this conversation just off to the side, away from everyone else, about this entity called the Flying Dutchman. And the Flying Dutchman, supposedly, based off of this story they created, was an entity which had extreme magical powers and sailed through the night sky of my world, randomly abducting people onto his ship and just entering into dealings with them. So TJ thought it'd be funny if his character was one of these people that got abducted by the Flying Dutchman. This was not part of his backstory that he had given to me. He just off the cuff decided this. So he decided that he was playing a bard, and he decided that the Flying Dutchman was the reason he had such good charisma. He had entered into a deal with this Flying Dutchman to give him charisma in exchange for his soul. And TJ's character said that he gave him his soul like his foot soul, like the soul of his foot. But this was something that had not been discussed again for like probably half of the campaign after this. And this was very early on. This is like they were level 3 or 4. And by the time they're like level 17, I reintroduced this plot point and made it real for something that TJ's character had to do. Basically, he had to get his soul back but it was revealed that no, he didn't lose his foot soul. He lost his foot soul and his real soul, and so he had to go get his soul back. And that's it. I mean, they got the soul back eventually. It wasn't that hard. They were level 17 characters.
So Jay, what's the rendition?
Oh, that was fantastic. I love it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love
you
it.
pass.
In the
Yes.
TJ
Yeah.
episode, I also said that's probably my favorite thing that my players have ever done at the table.
All right, Jordan, you ready?
Is it my turn? Yes, I am ready.
Your turn.
Okay. I think this is the funniest thing I've ever done in Vivio 1. Whenever we were running around Lycania, when it was Mercury, Shanae, and I think Himiko was also there. So Pertusa's character in this campaign was notoriously a very, very, very bad person. And so we had free time and we were running around like the market district of the place that we were in. And so Pertusa's character was running around looking around for some shady underground dealings, trying to buy a person. And so he finds a place that he thinks is where this is going to happen. He goes down and like buys something from the seedy underground business person. Turns out the place that we were staying was the place where the bespoke come from. And so it was catnip. It was catnip. And so just to continue this bit, my bard at the time tries to convince Pertusit's character that it is indeed a slave that he bought, but it's like one of the spawn eggs from Minecraft, so you have to like throw it and break it. So I get him to throw and break the tube of catnip, and it smashes all over the ground and catnip goes everywhere. And then Pertusit is like, well, I didn't do anything. I'm going to be a Karen and go get my refund. So he and Taryn go back into the building, and then in the interim while this is happening, I pull aside a random person off the street and say, hey, I will pay you 10 gold right now if you stand here and pretend like you just spawned from this catnip tube. And so they come back out and Pertusit is like, oh my God, this is the person that I bought, and starts being weird because Shanae was evil. And so that's how we met a very important NPC in Vivio 1.
Yeah.
I convinced Pertusit that she spawned from a tube of catnip.
Did she become his slave?
No.
No.
She saved his ass. No, but she saved his ass a couple of times.
She did end up saving his ass a couple times.
Several times.
She actually is a character that persisted into the second campaign, although not as an important figure, but she was just there and existed still.
Phew. Well, there's the rendition, Jordan. Boo.
I still think it's the funniest thing I've ever done.
Jay, I'm going to tell you about my character that I have for campaign 3 coming up. We'll talk after this is over. I think you'll like him.
Caiaphas.
I think you'll like him.
You'll like Caiaphas.
Yeah.
You'll like Caiaphas.
All right, now it's my turn. So I got some ideas in my head of what I can tell. I'm going to tell you a story that's not really like extolling my ability as a DM. I'm just going to tell you a story that happened in my campaign.
There's a lot for your campaign that you could say.
Yeah.
There is.
So the party is trapped in a town that is kind of cursed by an elder brain to where you can't perceive that you can leave it. So they go through a tunnel and they're like, oh, we're not getting any farther. We must be stuck here. Had they kept going, they would have walked out because it has a 5-mile radius. But
Bruh.
You're kidding me.
Oh, did I never tell you that?
Wait, hold on.
No, you haven't told us that.
Oh, whoops, sorry. But anyway.
So we could.
I say this is doubly Hector's fault because he should have been the one to want to leave the most because of the Raven Wings.
God damn it!
Anyway, at one point they're going and investigating a body that had just been a young boy, probably in his teens, had just died. And they're going to investigate him because his body was covered up and buried really quick. And they're like, whoa, this happened in minutes. What's going on? They think that's their next lead for how to get out of this town. They go to the grave. They find an important NPC and they find the grave. And as they're investigating around, the boy's body pops out of the grave and he's kind of possessed by the elder brain.
I know what this story is.
No, it's not that tough of a fight. I think they were level 9 or 10 at this point, and this was kind of like a level 5 encounter. It wasn't that hard. However, it had a feature where when it did a leap, it had a terrifying leap. It's based off of the Chinese myth zombie. You might have heard of it. I think it's called a Jiangxi, the leaping zombie. So it had an ability where it leapt and landed. Anything around it would get feared. They had to make a save, and then they'd get feared.
Yeah.
Player X, I won't say who it was, their character got feared.
We've already
And-
said who it is on the show. You can completely shoot.
Wait.
Well, and
It's
reveal
okay.
it at the end. Just
I'm gonna
reveal
reveal it at the end. So player X gets feared by the creature. They're in melee range because it was like right next to them, but they're feared. Now player X was playing a monk, and monks have this nifty little ability where they can end the frightened condition on themselves as an action, and then continue to use their bonus action to attack. And even if they didn't, they were flanking. We played the flanking rule. So just by being feared, he could still hit his opponent. It would have been just a straight roll. It would have been fine. He was just, nothing real bad. But instead, he chose to run away, not end the fear condition on himself, then throw darts at disadvantage because now he was no longer flanking at a range. And then both darts missed. They ended up cleaning the floor with the zombie moments later, but not doing part to player X. So that's my story.
So something my son would do.
That is exactly who did it.
It was something your son did. The
Of course
fucking
it was.
stillness of Taryn's mind.
That's what we've dubbed, because the monk feature that ends fright is called stillness of mind. So we've called that whole shenanigans the stillness of Taryn's mind.
And he didn't realize it until after the combat had ended. He looked over at Pertuse and went, Pertuse it. Guess what I have?
Oh, because none of us knew that
No.
he had the stillness of mind feature. So he could have actually saved face if he just didn't tell us.
Show us, yeah.
But he also decided afterwards to inform the entire table of his mistake.
The joy of being a game master is to torture your players.
I didn't even intend to do that one.
God.
Long running campaign of mine, one of my bad guys was a fire mage, and the characters didn't like him very well when they first met him because he was being very rude and obnoxious to this young homebrew race of mine called Dilkians. They're kind of like bears. Okay. There were these two Dilkians. It was a father and son, and they did something that annoyed this character, this NPC called Ravlis the Red. Well, Ravlis the Red was very mean and nasty toward them. So my PCs, the group of them, they didn't like this. So they went over and they challenged him and stood up to him, and he backed down because he was by himself, and there were like 5 or 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, a couple days later, they were in the same town, and they got a surprise gift package delivered to their tavern. They opened the box, and each one of them had a different piece of apparel that was made from brown fur.
Oh,
One of them had a pair of gloves. One of them had a vest. One of them had a hat. and they were sent gifts from Ravlis the Red. Ravlis had gone back and slaughtered these two Dilkians that they had saved from him, and had them skinned and had things made and sent to my players.
Oh,
I'm
that's
very happy, and to this day, they still despise this NPC.
I
so
would too.
evil. I love it. Oh, I love
My
that.
God.
Wait till I tell you about what I did to Levi's character's parents. And all
Oh my
that.
God.
We'll get to that.
I was actually very, I wouldn't say angry, because out of game, I was fine. But like when I was emulating my character in the moment, it actually really upset me.
Oh, you were upset. It was my fault.
But that's a story for another time. Well, we're getting close to about an hour here, I'd say. So, Jay, do you have any closing thoughts about D&D in general and like your experience with it?
Just what I said earlier about community storytelling. I think that's the cool thing about D&D is anybody who's played it has stories. Like we've been sitting around telling stories, and it all happens in your imagination. So to those of us who play it, it's kind of like mythology. It's kind of like the stories that were told around campfires long ago with our ancient ancestors. I mean, it's things that we've all experienced and that have happened, but they weren't with real people, but they were real to us. They were real in our imagination.
That's a lovely way to put it. And it also means, guys, we're all bards. Suck it, Taryn. Yeah.
I don't want to be a bard.
Too bad.
Good
Not
ending
after TJ.
point? Good end point. Editing Jordan.
Editing Jordan. Cut it.
Okay. Give me a second.
Hi, this is Jordan from Nat One Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode you just listened to, and we hope that you come back for more soon. If you'd like to keep up with the zany shenanigans of our lives and the different things that we do, you can find us on Twitter, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube, Castbox, and Anchor. We look forward to seeing you again soon. And hey, thanks.